upside down.
All right.
That's how you know it's a test.
John G. Slagle interview, tail slate.
What is the most essential film equipment for a broke college student?
Yes, right on. You have one in your pocket right now. And my first gig on that day, the next day, the first person I shot was Jim Carrey. And I walked in and he's literally bouncing around the room. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spin the tambourine. I said, keep him under control. I go, that's great, let's do that.
Could you explain what you do in your career? And also, sorry, could you say your name?
It's G. John Slagle, S-L-A-G-L-E. Yes, I've been the director of photography for most of my career, which at this point involves, I'm really, as a director of photography, I'm really responsible for camera placement, camera usage, lenses, lighting, and everything that has to do with camera department and lighting. Have to do a lot with blocking, talent, and mostly just shooting. I shoot. A lot of that, and that's kind of where I'm at now and what I've been doing for most of my career.
That's cool, man. Could you give us a brief overview of your film journey and how you grew your career into what it is today? Like, I've always been curious how you got like all those connections, you know, and that film reel. I was very interested about this. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, I was fortunate. I started in the scene just very similar to where you guys are at, but it was up the street a little bit. I'm from Las Vegas. I grew up in Las Vegas. I went to vocational high school here. It was called Votech then. It's down here, East Tech, I think it's called. But at that time, it wasn't the place where all the best students in the land ended up. And they said, you're not really doing that great at Clark High School, so you can go out to Votech. Now it's a much bigger deal to go there. So I was really fortunate that at that time, the PBS affiliate was at Votech. So it was a Channel 10 public broadcasting. They had brought in a bunch of filmmakers from San Francisco. They were doing documentary films on film with a bunch of really passionate filmmakers. And I fell into that at a very young age and hustled my way onto their crew. And that really gave me the basis for everything I've done since then, was just carrying that through. I stayed in Las Vegas. I went for another TV station. I worked another TV station. Then I started a small production company here. Then I moved that production company to Los Angeles. And the way that and when you say make connections, I would say that I don't do work for Fox Sports. I do work for Fox Sports. I do work for NBC Olympics. I do work for other film companies, but I'm doing work for someone in that organization. I have made their life easier when they called and said, I really need someone to shoot this. And in a lot of ways, people don't have a lot of really practical, technical information about what we do and how we do it, how many people we need, how many cameras we need, what kind of lighting we need, how we're going to do this. And I wanted to be the guy and have tried to be the guy that says, I got this. I will make this happen for you. And if you do that and you make people happy, then they go somewhere else. And you know, I worked for producers here because HBO Boxing was in Las Vegas. So I dialed in with HBO Boxing, doing boxing matches. Part of an overall group of 15, 20 camera operators, director talking to you on a channel with a lot of other people and running camera to tell that story, but that's not really storytelling, it's what they're doing. So what I realized early on is that I wanted to be the single camera guy. All of those shows, when I still work on those kind of shows now, have what we call features. A single camera crew goes out, does interviews with training camps, does interviews with the Tysons and the boxers and the Olympians of the world. So it's different than being a group of 25 people shooting cameras and just shooting what that director wants. It's incorporating all kinds of creativity. You show up in a location, you got to find out where to shoot, you got to work with the talent, you got to work with the producers. And not only that, on a multi-camera shoot, there's going to be a truck that pulls up with those cameras. That truck, who owns that truck, makes the money on those cameras. Single camera shoot, traditionally the director of photography brings cameras and gear. So throughout most of my career, I've also been able to make income from my cameras. And that was a big differentiator as well. So that was kind of my path to the single camera production style and production company. And I moved it from here to LA. I got really lucky when I got to LA. I had some people that really liked what I did. I dialed into a show called In Living Color. And it was a seminal, kind of a groundbreaking show at that time, and still is. And I was pretty young when I started working there, and that was a really big deal. And so on that show, it's a union show, not only union for all the crew, but it's union for directors and producers. So they asked me to direct this segment the night before, and because I had already shot a bunch of stuff for him, and they said, he does okay, let's give him a chance to direct. They called me the night before and said, you're going to direct tomorrow. And that meant getting into Directors Guild of America, which is a really, really prestigious and wonderful organization. And I had and my first gig on that day, the next day, the first person I shot was Jim Carrey. So I had got one note from the producers, and they said, keep Jim Carrey under control, because they thought he overacted. I was like, he's a pretty funny guy, you know. So I went into his trailer the next morning. It was a thing called Krishna Cop. It's about a Hare Krishna who dies as a cop, and he keeps coming back as different characters. So that was the bit, and he's the first one on the screen. He's the first person I directed, and I went to his trailer, and I'm thinking, keep Jim Carrey under control, keep him under control. And I walked in, and he's literally bouncing around the room. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to spin the tambourine. I said, keep him under control. I go, that's great. Let's do that. So he knew what he was doing.
Okay. Did you have any role models that you looked up to and felt inspired by?
Yeah, to me, it was really the filmmakers I got started with. They had such a big impact on me because I just learned it's more. Passion is a given, but privilege is really what it is. It's really a privilege to put a camera on your shoulder and tell a story, and especially have someone pay you to do that. And from that time, I've always carried that with me. I've carried on to every set and every location I've been on. I just have to. I expect that of myself. And you do get on situations where even the producer will say, it's no big deal, we're going to do an interview, it's not a big deal. And I can't. I don't want to waste my time doing that. It's just such an important thing for me to do the best I can do. And so the people I worked with there, a man named Stephen Coppels, and this is kind of, I talked about paths on way to getting here. There was a group of filmmakers, and during the week when I was still running camera in the studio, I heard they needed a sound person. And at that point, it's double system sound. They're shooting film with a camera, and there's a recorder, which is quarter-inch tape, recording the sound with a tape recorder. And I heard that they were short a sound person. So over the weekend, I did all the studying I could do about the sound and how to record sound for double system, and microphone applications and all that. And I came in on Monday, and I told them, I'm just really concerned you're going to go in there with a hypercardioid microphone, and really going to need a shotgun microphone. I think that you should split that shotgun with a regular microphone, put that on channel A, channel B. It should be like, get that shotgun microphone in there. And I really didn't know what I was talking about, but I knew enough to and then I got on the crew, so it was really myself and him going out and doing documentaries. And that's really where I saw how to turn things that we walk by every day into art.
That's beautiful. Okay, what were some major roadblocks you faced, especially early on in your career?
I've been really blessed. I really haven't had a lot of things. I had a lot of people believe in me. I think that the things you mess up can turn into roadblocks, and they are. And I've done a lot of them, but it's also what I remember most. I've had things that happened that at the time that were really hard to take, especially on the ego, but then they just turned into really good lessons. I really can't complain about too much of things that I've come up against. The gig that I have chosen is really physically hard. When we're doing an Olympic profile, something like that, I've been to all over the world, and I'm usually traveling with 13 cases of gear, and it's myself and the sound operator, and we're going through airports with carts and gear, and you have to get physically from the wherever you how you get it to the airport, then you get on the cart. You get 13 pieces, you got to get on the cart, you got to get the cart over to the thing, you got to load the thing on the thing. Then you get to the airport, on the other end, you unload it, you get it in the cart. Now what are you going to do? You put it in the van, you got to put it in the van, now you put it in the hotel. So then you get on location, now I got to, carry a camera around, lights, things like that. So that, to me, that was probably my biggest concern, was just being strong enough to do it. So I've always been a gym rat. I know you can tell. But I have to, what are you laughing at? Why was that funny? And so, I've always been strong. I have to be strong, and that's just something to take into consideration when you do that. Like, the lights that I used to work with are not LEDs, and they're big and heavy, and cameras have gotten, smaller and lighter and all that. So I never wanted the camera to kick my ass, so I've always wanted to be strong enough to make it work. Mm-hmm. So that might be it, I don't know.
Okay, can I add on to that question?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Was there ever a moment in your career where you wanted to give up on filmmaking? Or have you never felt that way?
I had the advantage or disadvantage of, this continuity is now an issue, I'm just saying. I've had the, when I started at this beautiful situation with public broadcasting, documentaries, really passionate filmmakers, got me well on the crew. That scene kind of fell apart because they were based on grants, and the person who was getting our grants left. And that whole thing kind of fell apart. Most people lost their jobs, including me. So I went from there to Channel 5, which is KVVU, which is now a different affiliate. But at that point, it was an independent station. It was in a converted auto garage. It was pretty low quality situation. And I had come from, not only making more money, but a really nice studio, and then this was a really funky place. It was a converted garage. And I literally walked in the first day. They were doing a live show. I had two big Norelco cameras, and one of the cameramen was sitting behind it. He was live on the air. He had this handle like this, he had his feet up, and he was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I was astounded. I mean, it hit me like, I didn't know you could do that. At first I thought it was allowed. I'm coming from this place where, God, you're on the air and you're doing this thing. Let's make this look good. And he was like barely paying attention. So at that point, I kind of questioned where I was. But I also turned that into something that, that worked out okay too.
That's great. Okay. What made you decide to become a filmmaker?
Yeah, I was always the guy that had the cameras, even when I was young. I just had a camera around my shoulder. I got a Nikon when I was really young, and just shot as much film as I could. I just shot as many stills as I could. I have a lot of pictures of my friends when we were really young, and then I just kind of transitioned. And how I ended up at Votech was not, it wasn't a great move for me personally, because I kind of got kicked out of the other school, but it turned into a good thing for me eventually. And I'm just visually oriented. It's easy for me to frame shots. It's easy for me to design visual medium. It just falls. I would read magazines, and I would look at the high fashion ads, clothing ads, things like that, negative space, things that are this way and that way, and how the models are aligned, and even wardrobe and things like that. It's just been easy for me to make that into something. So it was just, that's how it felt good.
What is the biggest challenge you faced during the film production, and how did you overcome it?
You keep going to challenges. Yeah, I've had. Well, it's really actually it's still really hard to talk about. At the point that I got to probably the highest point of my entire career, I screwed up the scene. I screwed up the thing, and I had to, face that in front of the biggest studio I've ever been in, with the most extras, with the biggest setup. It was a feature film. It was huge stars, and I was shooting video for that. And I didn't double check the amount of videotape that was in, because I was shooting videotape within the film, and literally ran out of tape in the middle of that scene, and had to face the superstar in front of me and say, I messed this up. And it didn't go over well. It wasn't like, hey, it's cool, man. So that, for me, that was really, really, really hard. And yeah, I learned to double check everything, you know, to have the technical part of it has to be as important as the aesthetic part of it. And that, you know, it's just reality based, that you have to have the right things and working in the right order, and to double check that stuff is definitely, I learned that, but it's really hard. It's really even hard to talk about now.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
What is the most essential film equipment for a broke college student?
Yes, right on. You have one in your pocket right now. Okay. When I started, and I know that this is like, oh geez, but what I had to do, and I started doing documentaries, and you know, I have, and I'm not saying this for a dig me, but I have Emmys, I have primetime Emmys, I have sports Emmys, that people are, oh, okay, that's awesome. I'm more proud of the things I did when I was your age, and I went out as a broke filmmaker and did things and hustled locations and found great documentary stories and saw them through. And when we edited, like when I first started, I would transfer from my little camera onto 2-inch, because that's the way we had that. 2-inch videotape. You pick up the reels and you'll hurt yourself. They're on huge, massive things. Now to do a dissolve, which now we got digital, boom, 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 I don't like this, we move the square, we dissolve this, I don't like a 30-frame dissolve, I have 15-frame dissolve, I like that. Let's try that scene here, boom, boom, it happens immediately. Then I had to do A and B reels, okay? If you want to dissolve, I can cut, but I can't dissolve. So what I have to do is run an A and B reel through the switcher, dissolve in the switcher, onto a C reel. So if you want to talk logistics and things that mess with your mind up, so now I have to back time every single dissolve. I have to know that it's going to dissolve at 15 seconds. Now my B reel changes, dissolve to the A reel, it's 22 seconds. Now my A reel changes, dissolve back to the, so that's the kind of stuff I had to face when I was starting. So what you guys have now is the ultimate tools for what you can do. And I recommend this. I don't see a ton of people in the classes I've talked to before. I really recommend highly doing mini documentaries. You could shoot them. If you don't have a camera, you can shoot them on your phone. We all know interesting people. We all know, or we can read the paper about a mom who's working 3 jobs and donating to this, or a guy that's fixing bicycles for indigent children, or there's a bunch of stories out there. And if you commit to storytelling, first of all, it's a really good way to build those muscles up. You can do an interview in the car on the way to work. You could sit them down and do an interview like we're doing now, but you can also shoot them in every way, shape, or form, and you really starts to build those muscles, because when you sit down to edit it, it's all you and you have so much control. Like, I'm a shooter. I shoot every day pretty much, and I give my stuff to a producer, they take it away, editor does the stuff, maybe I'll see it, I usually don't even see it. I go and I shoot something else. In this scenario though, you shoot your stuff, and first of all, I'm in it for that. I'm in it for the experience of getting that stuff. And I love documentary because I love finding out about people. I can sit with everybody in this room and I'll do something on you. I'll find something about you that's interesting. I'll put you in a place that's really cool to shoot, and I'll get to know you. And to me, that's what it's about, because that's the way I spent my life. I'm a shooter. If I don't get to do that, I'm just really just working. And I've always gravitated to getting to know people, so then it's easier to tell their story. But if you do that, now you sit down with an interview, and if you get portraits, and then you do a little research on what they're into. Oh, How many people, how many young people in Las Vegas need bicycles? How many, what is the median income? Now you put that into a timeline. Now you have this timeline of all this stuff, and you could sit down. I want to start with a narration. In the city of Las Vegas, there are this many. No, I want to start with music. Boom, the music hits, and you see a young boy, and he's looking at his bicycle and it's broken up. You know, no, I don't want. I want to start with the guy who fixes the bicycles. Now it's just ultimate creative control, and you really start building up those muscles on how to do a story. And it doesn't have to be long. It'd be 5 minutes long, and you can tell that story. And then, you know, there's film festivals, or you put it online. I also highly recommend having your own YouTube channel. It's free, and if you do enough good stuff, people will see it. And if you do really good stuff, you'll make some money. So that's what I recommend to young people.
Okay. Do you have any fair warnings about the industry and the creative process?
Yeah, you know, at some point you got to push some paper around, as my mentor used to say. People can take advantage of for that, especially, you know, you guys are going, well, I want to shoot something, and you got a guy who has a hip hop band, or you have somebody who's starting a clothing line, and they say, well, come over and do this, and we'll hook you up. I would say go into that with open eyes, that you might not get paid for those things. And if that's the worst thing that happens to you, okay. But at some point you'd have to push some paper around, people have to sign things and put it into writing, which is really hard to do. The gig I have is as a freelancer. So I have to be good at all aspects of business as well, because I've always had a production company that I run that. So when you talk about those kind of things, be aware of that you get to a level that if you're a freelancer, that means you don't have a staff position where other people are thinking about getting you paid, other people are thinking about doing your promotion, that you're going to do all that stuff yourself. So I've had a brand since I was your age, since I was 19 years old. I've had a brand which was basically my name as a logo. And it's a nice type style, and a slash or a little thing or that, put on a card, put on the email as a signature on the email. And that way when people email me and they have their name as a brand, G. John Slagle, production specialist, or no, I just started production, G. John Slagle production, period. And so I recommend that highly to if you're serious about it, that you can kind of fill that in, you can become something, and then fill that in with your work. And then when you email people like me and you have a thing, it just means a little bit more if you have a signature. And it's real easy to do. Again, that stuff was harder when I was young, but it's real easy to do. And I update that stuff all the time. So.
Okay. How realistic do you think it is to become a successful filmmaker in Vegas, independent or not?
Las Vegas, you guys are in the best market you could possibly be in. You're in such a wonderful place for that. I know for me it was that there was a lot happening here, and there was a relatively small labor pool. So I had a lot of work when I was a young person doing those kind of things for boxing and for things that came through. All kinds of productions come through here. So it's a really good place to be. But I do think that, number one, I'd be realistic about what you love doing and pursue that. And I know we all want to be a director, but we also need other crafts, and that plays into it. I would try everything you can. I say yes to everything, but also be honest that if you say I want to be a DP, I want to be a camera person, or I want to be a director, there's people that are doing right now, they're shooting and they're creating product, and then they finish today and they edit it and they start again tomorrow because they have to. So they're really driven to do that. So if you say I want to be a director, just know that you got to do it. You have to do that stuff. But as far as being in this market, I think that the market is great, and I think that you guys have a lot of access here, I would think, to gear and to knowledge, and this is a great place to be, just at UNLV itself. But Las Vegas is a great market. There's so much happening. And you want a location, you go out in the desert, there's beautiful stuff happening there. You don't always have that. You don't have the kind of openness that we have around us to really tell stories and, you know, make that work for you. But the business that we're all interested in is changing, you know, by the minute. I've been saying it for a long time, the business is changing, but I've been doing the same thing. Now I really feel the whole business is changing. I think that you guys also have to be realistic about whether you want to be a filmmaker that does long form things and has an opportunity to, either by just the will that you have to pull it off, to tell a long form, or if we're going to be into streaming and social media where you know, 30 seconds is the normal. And neither one of them is good or bad. It just depends on the stories you want to tell and what you're driven to do, because that the market is changing for those things. A lot of the people that I worked with in Los Angeles are not doing well right now. That particular bit of the business is changing. There is social media. On my LinkedIn, I see a bunch of jobs for social media gathering, predators, a producer, editor, or you know, social media director. I see that's happening. There is jobs in that, and I think that if you develop your, you know, your book on that, and you can show somebody your work, or make them believe you can do the work. I think there's work out there for that. But I do think that things are changing as far as long form filmmaking. You know, you have streaming services, and you have social, and I think that it's coming down to that. Television is kind of anybody here watch television? You watch we do, but you watch streaming services, or do we watch Channel 8? Who watched Channel 8? Nobody watched? Okay, thank you. And I have some commercials running on there. I appreciate that. So that's what I mean. That's changing, and that's where some of the entry-level jobs used to come from, is from the television stations. Okay, those were jobs that I got into it, and a lot of people I know that do it, they started TV, and you had a lot of experience doing news and things like that, because it happens every day. You got to do a show. So just be honest about that and try to find a path into where you want to be, because it's changing.
Okay, let's move on to the club members' questions.
Oh, good.
First, we have Joe, the birthday boy. Okay, he's asking you.
What was the hardest film that you ever made?
Excuse me, Joe, is that really your question? You had to read it. I mean, how sincere are we?
Yeah.
For crying out loud, man, memorize your line. Hardest thing I've ever done? Yeah, I already told you about that. Again, we're in with the tragedies. Thank you so much. I really love reliving them. You know, you've added age to already too much. All that stuff I did when I was young, you know, it's just pulling all that stuff together. I'm not really great at asking for things. I'd rather do it myself. And a lot of stuff you have to ask for. You have to get outside yourself. In the film that I'm talking about that I messed things up, it's called The Great White Hype. Go ahead and check it out. I'm in the cast. The thing I messed up isn't even in the film. So there you go. So, but I also had to come out and be in the cast. I had to be on camera. They were shooting me while I was shooting them. Samuel Jackson, Damon Wayans, Cheech Marin, Peter Berg, all these actors were around me and I was acting with them. Jeff Goldblum, I was his cameraman in the movie. And that was something that was, to me, was harder. It was harder than being behind this, just designing shots or designing lighting. It was actually coming out and being in front of the camera, like I am now.
Okay. Anyone have, raise your hands. Does anyone have a question for Slagle? You?
Do you have any favorite like cinematographers?
Yeah. Again, I mean, you know, you have the Storaros, and you have a lot of the mainstream guys, I'm just not in that thing where I pull out one and know that that's my guy. And as much as I appreciate that, it's always been kind of like weird to me to do that and just and drop a bunch of names on people. And some of them that I've gotten to work with and loved working with, you probably wouldn't know. You know, they're just more they're more obscure and that way. So I'm not really good on the name dropping of shooters, and I should be. I really should. I know that that's a big deal. I'm just too busy. I'm just working all the time.
Okay. What is some advice you would give to the younger generation of this club?
Yeah, appreciate where you're at now, man. This is great. You know, being in this position is great. It really is. You have so much ability to tell stories and to shoot and to edit and to you know, get to know people along the way, because I think that's awesome. So I think that, you know, I think that I would tell you have to say yes to everything. I said yes to everything, which really sucks sometimes, especially if you're a shooter and the sun, you know, you need an exterior. The sun rises at 6. That means I'm up at 3 because I got to be on set at 4, 4:30, or 5 at the latest. So that part of it is not great, but you have to say yes to everything, and just, you know, celebrate where you're at now, love it, feel it, experience it. And do it. You just got to do it. I think just telling stories is really, you know, the basis of the joy of what we're doing. I recommend also just getting your favorite music. If you love music, most people do. I know I do. You know, it's always that your music's better than anybody else's. Sorry, but it is. But I still do that. I just get a bunch of visuals. I do time lapse. I do slow mo. I go out and do street photography and buildings and things that go by in slow motion and people looking, and then I take that and cut it into a timeline with a little sound effect and some music, and now I got a piece, and it's just so much fun to do that. So I recommend just doing all those things that are fun, and you start building those muscles up that come in handy later.
Okay, what would you say is your favorite camera to use for filming? And then what is your least favorite camera to use while filming?
You know, it's funny because I'm transitioning into doing more still photography. Because I've been on the Sony line basically because the clients I've had are on the Sony line. So I have a Sony Venice, which is their high-end camera. I have a Sony FX9, which is the next level down. I have a Sony FX6, which is next level kind of down. And I have a FX3, which is this camera here, which is, they're all wonderful. They're digital cameras. To me, a Sony camera, I have to paint color into it because they don't make really beautiful color out of the camera. But what I do have is I'm really doing much more still photography now because I love the chance of telling a story with one frame rather than 30 seconds or 30 minutes. So I have both ends of it. I was in New York City. I went to a gallery, which I highly recommend taking in as many pictures as you can, as many things you can. I went to a gallery, William Klein, street photographer in the 70s, turned fashion photographer. On the way out, the gift shop says, we like William Klein. Oh, we're looking at his books. We love him. I have a camera here. It's like what he used. It is a toy camera. It's $29.95. It's called a Holga. Shoots 120 film. And so we bought a $30 camera, and I'm in New York City. So I ran the corner to the film shop, got a roll of 120 or 2 or 3 rolls of 120, put it in there, walk around New York City. Click, click. You don't even, it's a rangefinder. You don't even know what you're getting, okay? And I got some of the most wonderful shots I've ever taken in my life. It was great. It was wonderful. Now I cut to where I have a studio here and I'm doing more serious stuff. I have a Hasselblad. I don't know if you guys know what Hasselblad is. It's a high-end Hasselblad cameras. The film version of Hasselblad went to the moon. Most of the important pictures you've ever seen of your life, Annie Leibovitz, all the high-profile portrait photographers use Hasselblad. They came out with a digital camera, and it shoots 100 megapixel digital frames. So it's an amazing, high-end, beautiful. Talk about color. I'll show you some stuff. It's amazing. The stuff that comes out of that camera is absolutely gorgeous, especially for digital. They also designed it, you can take the digital back off this little tiny camera it has, and you can put it on your film camera. So if you have all these film cameras and lenses that you've used all throughout your career with film back, you take the film back off, you put the digital back on, and you can shoot 100 megapixel digital files. So 100 megapixel, you start here, and you can go in and do a tight shot of the eye from here. It's just amazing. So I have both ends of the spectrum as far as cameras go. Thank you for asking.
Okay, I saw a question there.
Yes.
This is more of a nebulous director philosophy.
Okay.
question.
Okay.
So whether you're directing, shooting, watching, critiquing, do films create a reality of their own, or are they just incomplete replicas of the reality we live in? And depending on your perspective on that, how does that influence you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I think they do. I think that, you know, we are creating something. Like, I have to look at it that way. Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm just, you know, spending my life and things turn into air and they're gone. You know, I was talking to a tile guy yesterday. He's putting tile in my home. I go, listen, you know, that's going to be here forever, man. The stuff I shoot, it's gone. So I do think that it creates a reality. I'm trying to create that reality, and I'm creating reality other because my tool is working on the subconscious of who's watching. That is my goal. That is my job. I'm manipulating your subconscious by little tiny things I do. Okay, and the height of the camera, the way the blocking, the way the person looks, turns over their shoulder, how fast they're doing it, slow brings a reaction. High lens is a reaction, and so I do think it creates an alternate thing, and hopefully it does. And it is deep, but I think about that all the time. And 90% of the decisions I make on a set are for that reason, or because what I want to do to the subconscious.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh man, we could get it going here.
In your career, was there ever a specific moment when you realized like you made it?
One of the best things that happened in my career was I thought that early on when I did these documentaries, but I was doing HBO boxing when I was a younger person, but I was already doing pieces for HBO. I was still living in Las Vegas, so but what happened was I transitioned from from being on a multi-camera thing to doing pieces. And I did a bunch of pieces on boxers. I go to training camps, and again, I try to use as little as possible. And so then a lot of those pieces would play back while now I'm on the camera with the crew. And there's probably maybe 80 people on this channel, headsets. It's a very interesting world on headsets, you know. And everybody has to talk quickly because the director's also on there, and he's calling shots for 20 cameras. So a piece of mine played back on a boxer. His name was Terry Nunn, a San Diego boxer. And I had a 2-light shot of portrait. I always do portraits. And I had a 2-light shot of Terry Nunn. I had a hot pink light against the background of his boxing gym and a white light, side light on him. And he was sweating. I said, Terry, stand here. And he's sweating, the sweat's dropping off, and he's against this hot pink background. And this shot goes on the air. And I'm sitting on the camera, and we're waiting for that thing to play, and we're going to go back live. And the producer, his name is Ross Greenberg, he's the vice president in charge of production for HBO Sports, the big wig, the big cheese, gets on and says, hey, is John Slagle, is he on this channel? And I said, yeah, Ross, what's up? He goes, John Slagle? I go, yeah. He goes, you're the best there is, you're the best there ever was. And all these people on this channel heard this. You know, normally, I don't even get to watch it with family. You know? Once in a while, I watch my stuff with a few people. So that was probably, at that moment, was pretty cool. Thank you for asking.
Okay, Isaiah, you had a question.
Oh. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, make it better. Be better. It hurts, man, but that's like that was wonderful. When that happened, that's great. But what you learn is from when somebody says that doesn't read. I show him a photograph. He goes, no, that doesn't read. I'm like, oh, okay. I worked with a producer out in New York City. We did a documentary on the Navajo Indian Nation, was going to a Senate subcommittee to battle America for land that they were trying to take. And I did a documentary to present to the Senate subcommittee, traveled throughout Navajo Indian Nation, and I got next to it was during what they call a powwow, where they all come together and do all these celebrations and cooks and stuff like that. I mean, I was in heaven shooting this thing. So I get into an old pickup truck with an elder for the Navajo Indians, and we're riding across this desert, and I'm sitting next to him, and he's shooting, and he's talking about the path and what, this is what we're up against, and this is what we need. And I'm like, oh my God, this is gold, this is great. So we put it in thing, and now we're watching the playback of a rough cut of the documentary with the producer who was running the agency who had commissioned all this. And I can't wait for this shot to come up. And I'm like, okay, we're shooting this, and then okay, here comes the shot, and he's talking about the plight, and he's bouncing along in this truck, and what do you think, huh? And he goes, where's my wide shot? I go, well, they're bouncing in the thing, and it's the dust, and he says, where's my wide shot? I don't know where the hell we are. The wide shot is the truck going along the desert, and the dust comes off the tires, and this thing, and the sun's going down. Now we cut to this. Now we know where we are. So that was really good advice, but it hurt, at the time. But I have never forgot it. We need to know where we're at. To manipulate the subconscious, let the subconscious know where you're at. So that was kind of it.
I think we have room for one more question. I saw one back there. Was it?
Hi.
If you were to have been in charge of the shot you're currently in,
Yes.
what would you have done different?
Well, I do, my basic interview setup is key light, producer, camera. So I would be looking this way, and then the camera would be getting the fill side of my face. Now it's getting the key side of my face, which is the flat side of my face. So I would do this way, and now I turn, and if the camera's here, you're going to get a little modeling on this dark side of my face. So that's what I would just set that up differently and have, and for many things, you'll see this repeated over and over, episodic, feature films, commercials. You're shooting the fill side. You're not shooting the key side that's flat. There's no modeling, there's no shadow, there's nothing here on this side. You're shooting the fill side. So, the more I turn away from this, the more I turn away from it, the more sidey it gets, and the more interesting this gets. So I would normally start with what's called Rembrandt lighting. Anybody know that? Which is a 3/4 key light is here, and that way you get a little triangle on the fill side, and this is the interesting side. This is the side we always shoot. And so whenever I'm designing shots or blocking a person or talent or a group or whatever, I'm always looking to shoot on the fill side. So that would be the difference. And don't forget that, kids. That's very important information. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's key. It's key, producer, camera. So that way we're looking here, and then the camera's seeing the fill side. Sorry. Yes.
But yeah, that wraps up the questions. I think, what time is it?
It's currently 5:13.
Okay, 5:13. We have 2 more minutes left. Do you want
Yes.
to give a conclusion, or what do you call it?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that you guys can, be honest about what you love, and track that and pursue that, because that also allows you to build a posse with people who love the other thing. This person wants a DP. This person loves music. They could be the sound mixer. This person loves wardrobe. They got a wardrobe person. This person likes architecture. Well, they got a set designer. So, be honest about things that turn you on, because there's a lot of other people out there that are doing the same thing, and it's going to take a lot to get there. But also, just say yes to everything. Just do it. Feel it out. It's a long journey, and you have a chance to do many different things.
Okay.
And
Could you say, for the camera, could you say?
I love the UNLV Camera Club.
No, filmmaking
Is that it?
Club.
No.
UNLV.
I love the UNLV Filmmaking Club.